Welcome to An Outside View. I'm your host, Dick Zaccaro, and joining me tonight are my guests, Paul Beckner, recently off a fresh race for a counselor at large. We'll talk to him about that later, and also Bob Ford, otherwise known as AKA the Water Pirate, and it's appropriately where we're in October, getting close to Halloween, that Bob is dressed as a pirate, as you can see, with saber, patch on his eye, hat, and a bottle of what? What do you have there, Bob? Pilfered potable water, H2O. Is that from the D-cell plant?
This is I'm marketing my ill-gotten gains, and I just got back from a trip to the Caribbean, very successful.
Well, let me tell you something. Maybe the next Pirates of the Caribbean, you'll be a part. Johnny Depp's got nothing over you, my friend.
I might out. I'm going to use the revenues from this to pay my tax bill.
There you go. And we call Bob the Water Pirate, as everyone knows, in jest and good humor, because he's had some multiple problems in the past with the city on very inflated water bills. Correct, Bob?
That's putting it mildly.
There you go. All right, so we'll get back to them. But first of all, we like to start off with a 10-minute video for the viewers. The highly regarded Reverend Mark Oliver, who is the pastor of the Trinity Baptist Church in Brockton, recently visited New Jersey's boardwalk in Atlantic City with a commentary on the fate of several failed casinos, the Trump Casino being one of them, actually, and also the negative effects of a similar gas-fired power plant proposed in Brockton, some of the negative effects in the surrounding communities where this plant is in New Jersey. So that tape runs approximately 10 minutes. We're going to go right to the tape for you viewers, and then we'll be right back with some additional commentary with my two guests, Paul Beckner and Bob Ford. So on that note, enjoy the tape.
Recently in Brockton, the community that I serve, we've been led to believe that several projects, like a power plant and a casino, that they are the answer to bring blessing to our city of Brockton. They're supposed to be the answers to solving everything from crime issues and lowering taxes and just raise the esteem of the city altogether. The folks of Linden have had their share of fights just off the New Jersey Turnpike, a city of dozens of nationalities. It is a maze of refineries and transmission lines. Linden residents are accustomed to proposals for every waste site or industrial project that the wealthier towns really would not consider. In many ways, they are like the armpit of northern New Jersey.
When I actually settled here and I look over to my right, I see all that going out 24/7. I'm like, man, wait a minute, that's gotta be an affecting in the air, especially when you got kids. You know, you got asthmatic kids running around with asthma and medical conditions. It's just right now, it's the kids that are growing up to breathe this air.
In addition to the casino project, we're also in Brockton facing the possibilities of a power plant, much like this one in Linden, New Jersey, which burns on fossil fuel and gas. And you can see some of the vapors coming from the cooling part of the plant, and those vapors will drift who knows where. Now just picture the Davis Elementary School very nearby, and who knows what the results, what the effects of that will be long term on our children and our community. So here, as we're getting closer to the plant, you can see that even though we're in a populated area, at least this Linden plant is in the middle of a marsh field. So at least New Jersey had the good sense to put it in a place where people aren't walking right around the plant. So at least we see a difference there compared to what's proposed in Brockton. Welcome to Atlantic City. I'm standing here in front of the Revel Casino. You should know about 2 years ago, this thing was constructed costing about $2.5 billion. But guess what? Very recently, it was sold for about 5 cents on the dollar. This is a perfect example of casinos and their empty promises, and the fact that ultimately casinos are not the answer. Oh, and something else you should know about this Revel Casino, about $300 million of it was underwritten by the taxpayers of New Jersey. Again, another example of promises not fulfilled. Despite cash infusions from the state of New Jersey and major cuts to Atlantic City's municipal budget, property taxes have doubled in the past few years and have increased 29% in the past year alone. Casinos are designed to keep patrons inside losing money rather than outside spending money, as has been touted by our elected officials in Brockton. Gaming revenue in Atlantic City has cut in half over the past few years as the market has become oversaturated in the Northeast. Promises have been made in Brockton about local businesses thriving with a casino, but that's not likely to happen. The only businesses that really thrive when the casinos are in town are things like pawn shops and check cashing entities. Over 30% of Atlantic City's residents live below the poverty line, according to the census data. More than 5,000 housing units are actually empty. We're standing here in front of Sister Jean's Soup Kitchen. This ministry has been in Atlantic City, I'm told by some of the workers, 30, 40 years, just responding to the need of the homeless and others who are hungry in the community. I was talking with one of the workers. She said a couple of interesting things, one of them being that with the closing of the handful of casinos, one of the things that's really impacted them is that the support, the investment, of course, of the community, both monetarily as well as helpers coming to help serve the food and all those kinds of things, have drastically diminished with the closing of the casinos. I asked her about whether she lives in Atlantic City, and she says she does, and in the last few years, and with her eyes rolled back, she said that her taxes have gone up $2,000 just in the last few years because of what's going on in the city. Somebody has to pay the bills. The really interesting thing is this Sister Jean's Soup Kitchen is right across the street from the Taj Mahal, the Trump Taj Mahal. The Trump Taj Mahal was at the center of a recent court case in which a judge took away the health care and pension benefits of its 1,100 unionized workers. Corporate ownership still threatens to close the Taj and put all of its workers out of jobs unless it receives $175 million in tax concessions and state aid. The evidence is clear. Casino projects are filled with broken promises. There is no good reason to believe that Brockton will be the exception to the rule of what has happened in places like Atlantic City or in Connecticut or in places around the nation. We should all be warned and look for leaders who will raise the bar in Brockton and not lower it.
I see a mountain on my gates. I see it more and more each day. And what I give, it takes away. Whether I go or when I stay.
Okay, so here we are back in Brockton. We're right in front of the high school, which is right adjacent to the proposed casino. And I think everyone has to wonder what is the purpose of having a casino right next to a high school. When we were in Atlantic City, I was informed that the nearest high school to all the casinos there was about 3 miles away. So think of it, 300 yards away, 3 miles away. What does that say about us as a community? If you're in Bridgewater, the kids grow up there, and in the background of their life, there's a Bridgewater State University. You live in Easton, and the kids are challenged by Stonehill College for their future. And here we are as a community saying to our kids, there's your future, the casino. That's the best that we can offer you as a community. It's kind of a sad statement that we're making to our kids. So when you really think about it, we're really leaving as a legacy, as a community, as a city council, as the mayor, we're leaving as a legacy. Even the Massachusetts State Gaming Commission, we're leaving as a legacy that we could very well be the only community, the entire nation, that has a casino right next to a high school. What does that say about us?
It's looming larger by the day. I see a darkness in my face. I'll drive my car without the brakes. Oh, give me some time. Show me the foothold from which I can climb. Yeah, when I feel
Okay, we're back on the outside view, folks, and hopefully that was a powerful tape you just saw, and hopefully you'll digest some of the material you saw, and don't forget the November election's coming up, November 3rd, and we know who's pushing the casino, who's pushing the power plant, and you have some viable options on that ballot, and go from there. So back to our guest. Paul, why don't you tell the people your thoughts and feelings on this latest primary election that you were part of and ran for councilor at large?
Well, I mean, it was a pretty good turnout, all things considered, for a primary. As you know, I got on the ballot because of Dennis Hersey and yourself. You went and got the signatures for me. And personally, I was very encouraged by my showing in Ward 6, where I grew up, and Ward 5, where I live now. I came in 3rd and 4th, respectively. I didn't expect it to go anywhere. I didn't spend a nickel on the campaign. It was just something that I got urged to put my name on the ballot, so I did. If I had made it into the next round, I don't know what I would have done. But all in all, I think we have a good crop of candidates. Right from the beginning, when I heard that Win Farwell got into the race, I said, well, there's your 4th councilor there.
Right.
There might be room for somebody to upset somebody, one of the 3 incumbents. Gary Keith looks pretty strong. Craig Pena has been in many races, and who knows, he could be a sleeper. Adius Pierre, really nice guy. I've got his sign on my lawn. I've got a Gary Keith sign on my lawn. I think he could possibly give a run for the money. But I think the 4th spot, or the 3rd spot, is definitely going to go to Win Farwell. He used to be a mayor, a very good mayor, one that I supported heavily when he was mayor of the city. I didn't want to see another lawyer like Jack Units become mayor, and I thought Farwell was doing a heck of a job at that time. It's too bad it's taken him 20 years to get back into the 4A, but I think he'll be a very good voice on the council.
Right.
I know the people on the west side are heavily in favor of him, and the west side tends to vote more than all the other sides of the city, so they carry some elections.
Right, now there were 13 candidates in the primary that went down to the top 8 vote getters, correct?
Correct.
And you have 3 city councilor large incumbents running for re-election. Bob Sullivan was the top vote getter in the primary,
Yeah.
followed by Moses Rodriguez that got the 2nd most votes. Shayna Barnes, also an incumbent, got the 3rd most votes, and then Win Farwell and I believe Susan DeCastro, correct?
I think that was the order, yeah.
So there is an open seat where Jay Stewart is not running for re-election,
Correct.
who is a
Correct.
councilor at large
I mean,
as well.
Susan DeCastro, I forgot to mention her. I mean, this is her first time running, but she speaks well.
Right.
I think she speaks from the heart. I didn't get to listen to her too much, but I was there at the abbreviated forum where I had to get up and leave on my son's birthday. But listening to her speak, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
There are good, solid candidates that I think have the best intentions in their hearts in this race. So we'll see who the people vote.
Well-
Unfortunately, they usually elect whoever's an incumbent, particularly in the at-large race.
Right.
But there's a weak link or two there, and I think you might be surprised. At least I'm hoping.
And we may see better than average turnout this time around, where not only do you have the city elections, but you also have a special election with our state Senate seat in our district up since Senator Kennedy passed away a few months ago. And the primary was yesterday. Looks like Mike Brady, one of the reps from Brockton, will be facing another state representative, Jeff Deal from Whitman. So that should be a pretty interesting race.
That's a tough call.
Yeah,
That's a
how
tough
many
call.
people
Jeff
show
Deal,
up.
I mean, he was the one primarily responsible for getting that ridiculous and absolutely unconstitutional, in my opinion, automatic gas tax repealed. That was snuck in behind everybody's back by the state legislature. Kudos to him for doing that. And,
Yeah.
people shouldn't forget that. I like Mike Brady, but I mean, Jeff Deal's a very qualified individual. I mean, he's a state representative and a very good one.
I think most of the votes, the majority of the block of votes in that district, Senate district, comes from Brockton. I think about 60% of the votes. So I expect Jeff Deal will fare fairly well in the towns, surrounding towns. And Mike should do extremely well in Brockton. So a lot will come down to the turnout, if it's a big turnout or not.
Well, it'll come down to, like you mentioned, a big block of the voting is in Brockton. But if the towns that surround Brockton that are in that district have a very heavy turnout, that could favor somebody like Jeff Deal.
Right.
I mean, traditionally, Brockton doesn't come out and vote. I mean, when you get 12 to 30% of the registered voters, we're talking registered voters now, of which is only 44,000 plus.
Right.
At 12 to 30% that come out to vote, that's not very many when you think about the big scheme of things. And so if the surrounding towns can get to the 60, 70 edge,
Right.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah, several years ago, I ran for a county commissioner, and I had more than 55% of the Brockton voters. However, it was the primary, and only 13% of
Yeah,
the voters
right,
showed
right.
up. So I won Brockton easily, but I got killed in the surrounding towns.
The problem I see in Brockton as far as voters now, whereas yesteryear, people that lived here, they had a population that was probably 60, 70% European, Anglo, light-skinned Americans. Now it's flip-flopped. But the problem with the Haitian Americans and the Cape Verdean Americans that have moved here and other ethnicities is they don't know where to vote.
Right.
They want to vote. And many of them I talked to in the past couple of elections want to vote. And I try to set them up. You know, I get them registered, tell them where to vote. You know, I write it down, the directions. Whether they make it there, who knows?
Right.
But that's the key. They don't know what a ward is. They don't know what a precinct is. They're very new to this process.
Right.
Some have asked me, well, what does it matter? What does it matter who I vote for, or if I even vote? Then I have to explain to them, this is America. It does matter. It's a free country.
Absolutely.
And, you know, if you elect the wrong people, things start sliding backwards. And that's been a big problem in the country as a whole, let alone the state and the city. Now, we have a good governor. I like this governor. I'm a Democrat, sort of. But I voted for Charlie Baker. And I really believed he was going to be a good governor, and so far, so good.
Right.
So, yeah, I think we got to get more people more involved in the voting process and find out where they actually vote.
And Bob, let's get you into this conversation. The tape we just saw was on the power plant in New Jersey and also the casinos, the failed casinos. Now, some of the big issues in this election, obviously, crime is a huge issue. I just recently read we have the dubious distinction is having the most murders this year to date than any city in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, including Boston. So that's a big negative mark for us. You know, businesses, entertaining, coming into Brockton with the high commercial tax rates now combined with the high murder rate. I mean, they're going to think twice about coming in here. So something has to be done about that. Obviously, I think another huge issue that we saw when they put the referendum out for a casino, it was pretty much 50-50. I think the casino people, pro-casino people, only won by 143 votes out of the several thousands who came out and voted. And also the power plant, a lot of the people don't want a power plant in the city. So those are your three highest, I think, most publicized issues right now. Crime, the power plant, casino, obviously jobs always are, and your infrastructure. So what are some of your thoughts on the subject matter?
Well, like you say, shootings have become almost a daily occurrence in Brockton. You pick
Right.
up, not a week goes by that, somebody's getting shot or stabbed or robbed, that has to stop before you have any growth.
Right, and you just had a recent one just the other day.
right up the
A
street,
young
yeah.
man, unfortunately, tragically got shot and murdered right around the street from the corner from your house, correct?
Yeah, about 6, 7 streets
immediate
up from where I
vicinity.
live, yeah.
So it's definitely a problem, and as we said all along, I think it's very unfortunate that this city is squandering millions and millions and millions of dollars on failed investments, the D-cell plant, the baseball stadium. They're not going after Stonehill College for the additional funding of being tied into our sewer system. They're charging them a residential, less costly sewer fee than a bulk rate. And I once estimated it's about $10 million or more we could put towards public safety. Now, Paul, when you compare, as you know, the largest cities, Taunton, Fall River, New Bedford, Quincy versus Brockton, they have about 100 more public safety officers in Brockton, and every time an officer retires, we have a replacement. But that's not adding to the staff. So what are some of your thoughts on
Well, the solution, according to our CFO John Condon a couple of years ago when I was running for at-large, was to keep providing the overtime to the officers we have. He says we have plenty of coverage. I looked at him incredulously and said, plenty of coverage? I said, you got these guys doing overtime, 50, 60 hours a week. How can you say that they're in tip-top shape to be covering that amount of hours in the streets? Oh, they're all in great shape. I said, really? Really? So you want your officers to be dragging their feet basically out in the streets, trying to chase down these young hoodlums that are shooting each other. I mean, it makes no sense at all, that argument that he gave me.
Well, that many hours, they get burnt out after that too.
Yeah, I mean, I just soon see the very smallest amount of overtime and keep our officers fresh. And this brings me to another idea that I put forth a couple of years ago, is the fairgrounds. Why have a casino there? It's not going to happen anyway.
Right.
Because the Indians down in the Massapogs are going to be building in Taunton. So why are we going to cannibalize each other? It's not going to happen. It's not coming to Brockton. I knew that wasn't going to be the case when it was first proposed. Just isn't coming here. Brockton's not ready for something of that magnitude. And like Hank Tattaglia said to me one day, he was sitting at George's Cafe at one of, I think it was Tagger's kickoff event for mayor. I sat down outside the bar and talking to Hank. Hank said, so Beck, what do you think of the casino? I said, well, Hank, I don't think it's a good idea. He said, how can you say that, Beck? How can you say that? I said, well, first of all, it's near the high school, and, it doesn't seem to be the right time, the right location. I said, it's probably going to fail in 3, 4, 5 years. So what are we going to do? Beck, he says, $10 million a year. For 4 or 5 years, we get $10 million a year. You know what we can do with that money? And he said, that's the way he talks,
Right.
He says, and so what if it fails in 4 or 5 years? Then we got this beautiful building. They're going to fix all the roads. We got this beautiful building. We'll put something else there. I sat there for a second. I said, it's a pretty good point.
Absolutely,
$50 million, a beautiful building, and all the roads fixed. So if it happened, I'd have to say, let's make the best of it. But it's not going to happen. So what I've talking about public safety and police, I think we should have a cadet training facility there for all cadets, whether it's the state police or it's local police in any towns in this state, and put them there to like their little boot camp or what have you, and let them help patrol the streets of Brockton. See what it's really like to patrol streets in a crime-ridden area. It's only going to make them better officers.
Right.
And our officers right there by them showing them this, I think it'd be fantastic. Put that fairgrounds to good use. We'd have to lobby the state, obviously, and our state legislators, which who knows if they get behind something like that. They don't seem to get behind anything but taxes. But
Yeah, great impersonation of Hank Tattaglia, by the way, who's friends with all of us, and he's no stranger to politics. He ran for council
He's a
Ward
great
2
guy.
several years ago, and his brother Charlie was a Ward 2 council.
he gets all, how he gets enthusiastic.
he is.
Beck, how can you say that?
A proud Brocktonian, and all you needed was the gold chains, and you might even pull it off as him sitting there. Bob, any other comments? We're getting tight on time now. We're running down time since the video took up 10 minutes of the show. What would you like to say?
Show him the miracle here sign.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We wish Paul the best of luck. He's off to the private sector once again. and doing fairly well and servicing our community. in the private
Servicing
sector.
primarily our seniors
Do
with
you wanna
hearing
do the honors
hearing
and hold it up?
problems.
I guess you were going to hold it
Yeah.
up. Yeah, this is my advice to the city
Yeah,
council.
well, as we know, Paul is selling sophisticated hearing aids, a Miracle Air up in the west side. Stop in to see him, you people that have any problems
Of
with
course,
hearing. But
none of our insurance companies in the state are mandated to cover anybody.
But this, Bob Ford came up with this clever poster as Brockton Theater, Miracle. This is highly recommended for those members of the city council who suffer from selective hearing. And we stressed that point many times on the show. That's a little humor there for us. But we're winding down.
There's another one too at the City Hall closed for alteration.
Yeah, and Bob always comes up with these great posters. Entering Brockton, established 1874, with the depiction of Brockton City Hall, which is a magnificent building. They just spent $4.5 million in federal funds fixing up the plaza. It says, closed for renovations. We can reopen this once proud building by voting for change in November. So I want to, as we
$4.5
close the
million
show out.
They could have spent about 50,000 and washed
Right.
it. It would have looked the same.
Exactly. But that's an important point, folks, here, where we say, whoever you vote for in
Peace.
November,
Give me the peace sign.
I think that's the 2-minute warning, like in football. So move the ball down the field into the end zone to score, right? As Tom Brady does it better than anyone probably in the history of
Richard
football, as
Nixon,
we've seen.
I'm no crook.
But in the last minute or so, again, November 3rd, Tuesday, November 3rd is the final election. So you have our city officials up for re-election, the councilors and school committee members, and also you have the special election to fill a very important state senate seat in the district that was
Dick, who do you like for
void.
mayor?
Well,
Take a poll.
I think it's going to be an interesting race. Obviously, it's always tough, as you said at the beginning of the show, to beat the incumbent. But
course it
but you
is.
never know how the people. There's a lot of I hear a lot of unhappy people out there with the tax rates and the crime, as we discussed before. And one never knows. A lot has to do with the turnout.
Yeah, a lot has to do with the turnout, but what we need 4-year terms for mayors
Absolutely.
and for
So-
councilors. And, I told you my idea earlier, we should have 8 wards in the city, 4 councilors, 2 wards apiece,
All right.
2 councilors at large,
Well,
full-time, and
I
60
wanna-
grand a year. Bingo, there we go, we're
There you
back
go.
in
We
business.
got to
in the
wrap
city.
up, and that's the beacon of hope right there. Thank you, folks, for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the outside view until our next show. Thank you.